Hello students, this is a quick overview of the dictionary specifically for our AECI program. So let's look at the dictionary together. The dictionary we use or we recommend is the Longmann Dictionary of American English, but you can really use any English to English dictionary. And what that means is that there is an English word and then there's an English definition as well. Unlike some of you might have a kind of translation type of dictionary where you have the English word and then you have the explanation or translation into your language. But instead we use English to English dictionaries. It is a little more difficult, but it will help you to become a better English speaker and a better English learner. All dictionaries are alphabetical, and you'll even see on our Longmann dictionary, and many dictionaries are like this. If you look at the side of the page, you'll see these little blue markers, and that way you can quickly go from A, B, C, D, E. You can find the letter that the word starts with. So when you use the dictionary, you'll want to use scanning methods, and we'll talk about different methods of reading for different purposes. For example, skimming, scanning, and then reading in depth or reading for detail. But when you come to a dictionary, you're almost always going to scan. You're looking for one specific piece of information. Usually you're looking for the definition of one word. And you'll use scanning to do that. So you flip through, you find the page that you need, you find the word that you're interested to learn about, and then you find the definition. That's scanning. You're not going to skim, which means you're just kind of reading each page very quickly. You're not going to do that. And you're not going to read for detail, which means you're reading each page in depth, reading each page thoroughly. You're not going to do that with a dictionary. Instead, you're going to scan and look for information. Okay, let's take a look into the Longmann Dictionary of American English. I'm using the 5th edition, but most editions of this dictionary will be very similar. So if you have a different edition, that's fine. Or like I said, if you have a different English to English dictionary, that's okay, but yours might be just slightly different. So in the front of the dictionary, there's a key to the dictionary, and it gives you a lot of hints and helpful information for how to use the dictionary. I'm not going to go over everything, but I do want to point out some things. So first of all, you'll see the word usually in pink or in blue, and it's bold. When it's in pink, that's going to be the first time you'll see the word. If it's in blue, that might be a new definition of a word. So for example, you see backward, that's the first definition, the most common definition, and then there's backward with a 2 next to it, and there would be a second meaning there, or maybe it's a different part of speech, but it's the same word. And you'll notice that each word, the ones that are in pink, are divided into syllables. So you see backward, 2 syllables. The next one you see down there in pink would be bad, and that's just 1 syllable. So there's a little dot in between each syllable, and that should help you pronounce it. Then you'll see to the right of that there is a pronunciation guide, and some of you, if you know the pronunciation markers, that will be helpful for you. But some of you, that just looks like some other language and it doesn't make sense. That's okay. You don't need to learn those pronunciation kind of guides, but you should learn how to pronounce each word, but find the way that works for you. Now after that, you'll see the part of speech. So backward is an adverb, for example, and then you'll see a large number 1, which will give you the first definition there, and then a number 2, number 3. There might be more than one meaning or more than one definition, and then sometimes, like I said, there could be a second backward, which would be a second part of speech, or a second and very different meaning as well. I also want to point out that many times there are some examples that are listed in italics. So you'll see under where it says backward, you'll see it says she took a step backwards. There's an example sentence. And many of the words here will have some example sentences. Don't copy those sentences into your writing assignment or something like that. But you can read those and kind of it'll help you understand the meaning of those words. For some words, there are some synonyms listed, and sometimes even antonyms. So under backward, you'll see ANT, that means antonym, and then you'll see the word forward. So that's the opposite. And then where it says thesaurus, you'll see some synonyms. So that means very similar or the same type of word. So where it says bad, you'll see the thesaurus, and then you'll see awful, terrible, horrible, appalling, horrific. So those are all words that are very similar or mean the same thing as bad. Okay, move on to the next page, and you'll see at the very top, it says on the right side of your key to the dictionary, it says information about irregular forms of a verb, noun, or adjective is shown at the beginning of an entry. So with some of the words that are irregular, it might give you the past tense or the past participle or something like that is different from a regular verb. Then I also want to point out down the line there, it says groups of phrases that are only used in spoken English are explained together, each with its own definition. So sometimes there are English phrases that are really only used in English and usually don't make sense in some other language. So they would be listed here that should be able to help you. So you'll see here it says like spoken phrases, and then it says to be better or more enjoyable than something else. And then there's an example sentence there. It's not the greatest job, but it beats waitressing. So that's pretty confusing sometimes, but that's why it's explained there, is that beat can mean to defeat or to hit, but also in spoken phrases, it could also mean to be better than or more enjoyable than. It beats waitressing, means that it's a better job than waitressing. Okay, and then down the line on the right, you'll also see where it says usage notes help you avoid making common errors. So new English learners many times will make these errors, and that's why in this dictionary there are some usage notes, and you'll see a little triangle, a little pink triangle, and then you'll see some usage notes. For example, don't say, she started to be anxious about her son. That doesn't really make sense in English. Instead, we would say, she started to become anxious about her son. And then the last thing that I'll point out on this page is where it says word choice boxes help you choose between words with similar meanings, showing the most appropriate use of each word. So when you come across a box that's in blue like this and it says word choice at the top, you'll see these different words that are very similar, usually synonyms, like become and then get and go. And you'll see why and how they're used and which situations they should be used. So you'll see, for example, their music has become very popular. And then below we have, I'm getting tired. Have you gone crazy? So you see that get and go are less formal than become. And I won't go through the rest of these little points, but you can look through those if you want. At the beginning of your dictionary, there's a lot of helpful hints there. Now we're going to go into the middle of your dictionary. There's some practice. So if you go to the very middle, there's like a blue line all the way down the middle of your dictionary, and it's a learner's handbook. And there are some exercises and some activities that are helpful for us. We're just going to review some of them very quickly. So the first exercise just reviews how to find a word, especially when you don't know the spelling. Remember, you can just try different spellings if you're not sure how to spell it. For example, you're not sure if it starts with a K or a C. They both sometimes have that K sound, so look it up under both letters. So look at these examples here, and you'll see some misspelled words like scream and eternal. If you're not sure how to spell it and you start looking it up under S-K-R-E, and you find, oh, there's no word there, then you might try S-C-R-E, and then you'll find the word scream. And same with eternal, E-T-U-R, you don't find the word there. Under the E-T-U's, you need to go to the E-T-E's under eternal, and you'll find eternal. So remember, if you're not sure how to spell it, just try different spellings, and then you'll be able to find it in the dictionary. Okay, the next exercise is talking about alphabetical order. And this is just a kind of quick practice to figure out where the words in the dictionary would be. The first one is done for you. You see barn would come first, garage would be next, observe would be after that, relative would be fourth, under is fifth, and then zero is the last word. So remember to follow that kind of alphabetical order, A, B, C, D. It gets a little more complex when you have words that are similar. So like look at number 2, you see highlighter and high school. So you'll have to go through each letter, H-I-G-H, those are all the same, and then you see L for highlighter, and then under high school would be S. So you know highlighter, L, would come before high school, the S in school. So that's just a helpful hint for you. Now, if you're still not sure about using the alphabet, I would go ahead and do these exercises. If this is super easy for you, skip ahead and you can move on to the next thing. Exercise 3 points out the fact that many times the long version of a word, like the adjective, might not be listed in the dictionary, but the noun or the verb is listed in the dictionary. So you'll see these examples here. You need to find the root or maybe the noun or the verb form of these words, and then you'll be able to find the meaning in the dictionary. So for bitterness, look up the word bitter. For weightlifter, maybe look up weight lift. For spiritually, you could look up spirit or spiritual, and you'll be able to understand the meaning of spiritually. Now let's skip over to exercise 6 on its page A2. Exercise 6 just points out that there are different words that are more frequent in English. And when you see some red dots, you'll see that these are some very common words. If it has 3 red dots, that means it's one of the most popular or most used English words. So those are very important words to learn. If you're just trying to enhance your vocabulary, I would start with those kind of 3-dot words. Then if you see 2 dots, that's a little less popular, but still very, very commonly used words. And then 1 solid circle red dot means that is one of the 6,000 to 9,000 most frequently used words. After that, if you don't see a dot at all, those are some less common words. So the main thing is just to pay attention to those 3 dotted words. Those are the most frequently used English words, and you'll want to really learn those. If you get a good handle on those, then you'll really have a strong English foundation. One of the good things about the Longmann English Dictionary, and the reason that we recommend it, is because the definitions are using simple English that you probably already know, that you should already know. It tries to use only the vocabulary, the key vocabulary of just 2,000 words, so that's the most common English words, to describe and to define other words. So when you look up a dictionary definition in this dictionary, you'll be able to really enhance your English. Okay, let's move on to the next page where it says words with more than one meaning. And this is one very important thing that I want to point out as well. So like I said, when you come to a definition, you'll see maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are different definitions for the same word. And sometimes when you see the pink word and then you'll see a blue word after it, that blue word is a different part of speech with maybe a slightly different meaning as well. Say you're reading a text from our class and you look up a word, you don't know what it means, then you'll need to look at the different definitions and choose which meaning makes the most sense. The number 1 is the most commonly used definition or most common meaning of that word. Okay, as always, if you have any questions, please email me or ask me in class, and I look forward to seeing you in class.